Bruno Guimarães has just told Newcastle United something that changes everything about this window. He wants to leave for Arsenal. He has said it to the club directly. And now Newcastle are sitting with a decision that could define their summer, because the player they built their midfield around for 4 years is asking to go, and he is asking to go quietly, respectfully, without a fight. That last part matters more than people realise. This is not another Alexander Isak situation. A year ago, Isak went on strike. He refused to train properly, he refused to play, he forced Newcastle's hand until they had no choice but to sell him to Liverpool for £125 million. Guimarães is doing the opposite. He has made his desire clear, he wants Arsenal, personal terms will not be a problem, but he has told Newcastle he will not create issues if the move does not happen. He is leaving the decision entirely in the hands of two football clubs, and that puts Newcastle in a position they were not fully prepared for. Here is what is at stake for Arsenal right now. They have already had 2 offers turned down. The first bid was £55 million, rejected. The second was a package worth around £65 million, rejected again. Newcastle's answer both times has been the same, and it has been firm. They do not want to sell their best midfielder, a player who has been almost ever present for 4 years, a player who only missed matches this season because of a hamstring injury. Newcastle know exactly what they are losing if this goes through, and that is why the price keeps climbing. The number now being talked about is £90 million. That is what Newcastle consider the starting point for any serious conversation. Arsenal, from what is understood, are not willing to go that high, at least not yet. So you have 2 clubs standing at opposite ends of a gap between £65 million and £90 million, both aware that somewhere in that range, a deal becomes possible. The expectation now is that Arsenal will come back with a new official bid, somewhere between those 2 figures, in an attempt to accelerate the whole process. If you want deeper analysis like this on every major Arsenal transfer story this summer, this is exactly the kind of channel you want to be subscribed to. Hit that subscribe button now because the Guimarães situation is moving fast, and there is a lot more still to break down. So why does Mikel Arteta want this specific player so badly? The answer is not complicated once you look at it properly. Arteta places enormous value on signing players who already understand the Premier League. No adaptation period, no settling in window, no risk of a signing needing 6 months to find his feet. Guimarães has spent 4 years in England already. He knows the physical demands, he knows the schedule, and physical durability is exactly what Arsenal have been missing. This club has been hit hard by injuries in recent seasons. Anyone who has watched Arsenal knows this is not a small issue. It has cost them results, it has cost them squad depth at the worst possible moments, and it has been a direct factor in matches they should have won but did not. A squad that plays 60 matches a season across 4 competitions cannot afford to be thin in midfield, and that is precisely the problem Arsenal are trying to solve with this signing. Guimarães represents both quality and robustness in one player, which is a rare combination to find in the current market. Now here is where I want to slow down and be precise because this is important. Arsenal have not made an official club-to-club approach for Guimarães yet. There have been inquiries. There have been talks with the players' representatives. There has been a verbal offer that was turned down. But a fully official formal transfer bid submitted through proper channels has not yet happened, according to the most recent information available. What has happened is that Guimarães personally informed Newcastle of his intention to leave, which is a significant step, because it shows this is not simply speculation being generated by outside sources. This is coming from inside the situation itself. The gap between £55 million, then £65 million, and Newcastle's £90 million valuation tells you everything about where the real negotiation is going to take place. This is not a transfer that gets resolved with one bid. Expect this to run for weeks, potentially all the way into deadline day, unless Arsenal decide to move decisively and close the gap quickly. Let's talk about timing, because timing right now is complicated for every club in this window. There is a World Cup taking place at this exact moment, and that changes how transfer business gets done. Players are away with their national teams, agents are harder to pin down, and entire markets slow down as a result. That is a large part of why Arsenal have looked relatively quiet through the opening weeks of the summer. It is not a lack of ambition. It is simply that the conditions for fast business are not there right now. Once the World Cup period passes, expect things to move considerably quicker across the board, and that includes the Guimarães pursuit. Moving on to the second major situation Arsenal are handling, because this one involves a completely different profile of player and a completely different kind of urgency, Christos Tzolis. This is a winger currently at Club Brugge, and the situation here has been described in very direct terms. This deal is there to be done, whenever Arsenal decide they want to activate it. That phrase matters. It tells you the framework of an agreement already exists. It is not a distant, speculative interest. Conversations have already taken place between the 2 parties. The reported valuation sits at around £35 million, And at that price point, this has the feel of a deal that could move quickly once Arsenal choose to prioritise it. Why does Zolis fit what Arsenal are building? The left-sided attack has been identified as an area of clear focus this summer. Arsenal are Premier League champions. They reached the Champions League final. Their squad, by any reasonable measure, is already strong. But when a club reaches that level of performance, the standard for what gets added does not go down, it goes up. Every new signing has to represent genuine quality, not just squad depth for the sake of it. Zolis is being considered specifically because he fits that attacking third profile Arteta wants to strengthen. Now here is the third piece of this puzzle, and it connects directly to why Arsenal are searching for attacking reinforcements in the first place. Leandro Trossard's situation at the club appears to be heading toward an exit. The expectation is that he will move to Besiktas, with a fee in the region of £20 million being mentioned. Trossard has been a good servant to this club, but he is 31 years old now, and Arsenal appear to be looking at his position on the left side of the attack as one that needs fresh legs and a different kind of long-term investment. This is where Bradley Barcola enters the conversation, and this situation is significantly more competitive than either the Guimarães or Zolis stories. Barcola currently plays for Paris Saint-Germain, and his club have set an asking price of €150 million. That is an extremely high valuation, and it tells you exactly how highly Paris Saint-Germain rate him, even amid his uncertain future at the club. He is 23 years old. He registered 20 goal contributions in 49 appearances last season across all competitions, and he has just come off representing France at the World Cup, which only raises his profile further heading into deadline day. Both Arsenal and Liverpool are described as vying to secure his signature, and this is not a minor detail because Liverpool are not just casually interested. Liverpool have already been active in this market, having signed Osasuna winger Victor Munoz earlier in the window, and there is a clear expectation that they will intensify their pursuit of Barcola specifically after his World Cup exposure. Arsenal see him as a direct replacement for the departing Trossard, and he sits alongside Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers as one of the club's primary attacking targets this summer. Here is where I have to be completely transparent with you, because accuracy matters more than excitement in this kind of analysis. There is data available that assesses which destination would statistically suit Barcola best, based on what is called a career fit model. According to that model, Liverpool hold the highest fit score for Barcola of any club in world football, at 83. That places them narrowly ahead of Paris Saint-Germain themselves, and ahead of both Barcelona and Real Madrid. Manchester United and Manchester City rank 5th and 6th respectively. Arsenal, according to this same model, rank 24th. That is a significant gap, and it is worth stating plainly rather than glossing over it. This does not mean Arsenal cannot sign Barcola. Transfers are decided by more than statistical models. They are decided by contract length, personal preference, project ambition, and financial packages. But if we are being honest analysts rather than simply hyping every rumour, that career fit gap is a real factor working against Arsenal in this specific race, and Liverpool's positioning here looks considerably stronger on paper. Paris Saint-Germain's motivations also deserve attention because they explain why Barcola might genuinely be available this summer despite his importance to the squad. The club are currently in advanced talks for two other attacking players, Magnus Akliouche from Monaco and Jan Diomande from RB Leipzig. Moving Barcola on would help create room, both in the squad and financially, to complete those two incoming deals. Paris Saint-Germain are not desperate to sell, and they would prefer him to extend his contract, which currently runs until 2028. But Barcola himself is reportedly open to leaving, and that willingness is what keeps Arsenal and Liverpool genuinely in this race, rather than just circling from a distance. Let's also account for what has already been confirmed and completed this summer, because it is easy to focus only on the big names still in negotiation and forget what has already been settled. Piero Hincapié's loan move to Arsenal has been made permanent. That is done. There is no ambiguity there. Ilan Meslier is also set to join the club on a free transfer, arriving as the third-choice goalkeeper. This is not a headline-making signing, and nobody is pretending it is, but it does represent Arsenal quietly strengthening squad depth in a position that needed cover, even while the bigger attacking and midfield stories dominate the conversation. So let's bring this all together and be clear about where each situation genuinely stands right now, because separating fact from speculation is exactly what serious analysis requires. Bruno Guimarães wants to join Arsenal from Newcastle. Two bids have already been rejected, 55 million and a 65 million package. Newcastle are holding out for around 90 million. Arsenal are preparing a new official bid somewhere in that range. This is real, active and moving, but it is not resolved, and Newcastle's resistance has been consistent so far. Christos Zolis at Club Brugge represents a deal that has been described as ready to complete whenever Arsenal choose to move, at around £35 million. Conversations have already taken place. This is genuine interest with a defined pathway, not just speculation. Bradley Barcola is the most competitive and most expensive of the situations. Paris Saint-Germain want 150 million euros. Arsenal and Liverpool are both pursuing him, with Liverpool appearing statistically better positioned according to available fit models. This remains genuinely open, and nothing should be treated as close to done here. Leandro Trossard's expected departure to Besiktas in the region of £20 million is the piece that helps explain why Arsenal need fresh attacking options on that side of the pitch in the first place. And Piero Hincapie's permanent move, along with Ilan Meslier's free transfer arrival, are both already confirmed pieces of business, quietly building depth while the bigger stories play out. What does all of this tell us about Arsenal's approach this summer? It tells us Andrea Berta is working from a position of strength rather than urgency. Arsenal are Premier League champions. They reached a Champions League final. There is no panic in how they are operating, and that shows in the pattern here, a wide net being cast across multiple positions, multiple price points, and multiple levels of readiness before Arsenal commit fully to any single deal. That is a deliberate approach, not a slow one, even if it looks quiet from the outside during a World Cup summer where the entire market is naturally sluggish. The next real signal to watch for is whether Arsenal's new Guimarães bid actually lands somewhere close to that £70 or £75 million range, because that is likely where any agreement with Newcastle would realistically be found. Watch also for any formal movement on Solis, given how advanced those conversations already appear to be. And watch closely how the Barcola race develops once Liverpool intensify their approach, because that career fit gap is not something Arsenal can simply ignore if Liverpool put together a serious offer first. This is a summer where Arsenal are being patient, calculated and selective, rather than reactive. That is exactly what you would expect from a club that already won the league and reached a European final, a club adding to strength rather than fixing weakness. Let me go a little deeper on the Guimarães numbers because I think the way this negotiation is structured tells us something important about how both clubs are thinking. £55 million was always going to be an opening offer designed to test the waters rather than a genuine attempt to get a deal done quickly. Newcastle rejecting it immediately was expected. The second offer, a package worth around £65 million, was a more serious attempt. And the fact that it was still turned down tells you Newcastle's resistance is not just posturing for the cameras. What makes this saga different from most transfer standoffs is the tone coming from the player himself. Guimarães has been described as wanting to be respectful with Newcastle throughout this process. He has not gone public with demands. He has simply stated his preference and left the outcome in the hands of the two clubs. That actually works in Newcastle's favour in one specific way. It removes the pressure that usually forces a selling club's hand. Turning back to Solis, when a deal is described as there to be done, it usually means the mechanics, valuation, player willingness, and club-to-club understanding are already broadly agreed in principle. It would not be surprising if Arsenal use him as a foundation piece for the attacking rebuild, while continuing to fight for Barcola as a higher ceiling addition alongside him.